Thank you, everybody, for coming. President just had his speech at the panel discussion, so I think to save time and to hear more from you and to hear more answers, we'll go straight to the questions. Please raise up the nameplates so I see who is asking the question, and please stand up for the camera crews to see you. Okay, and we'll start with CNA. Yes, CNA, please. Wait for your microphone, and please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. China has said it's not attending the peace conference in Switzerland, although it has voiced out that China and Brazil will be holding one. Would you be open to sitting in for this conference with Russia? And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. Of course, we, without any positive, receive the signal from China regarding the fact that they will not take part in Peace Summit. As regards the proposals from China and Brazil, if there are the proposals, of course, Ukraine, as a victim of this war, had the full right to initiate the path to the end of the war, that is peace. And it is us who have to initiate everything, because only we know all the crises that Russia has brought with its war to the territory of Ukraine. The unprovoked war that we did not start, the war is not waged on the territory of Russia. All the crisis is happening on the territory of Ukraine. With all the respect to any country, neither China nor Brazil, nobody is fully aware of what Russia has brought with this war to our state. I wish all the countries peace. I wish for everybody to have no losses, no massive graves, no massive victims, etc. But it is Ukrainians who have died. Russians were raping our people, our women. They have stolen tens of thousands of our children, and nobody has the right to dictate us how this war should end. The war should end in accordance to the international law, to justice, and that is a must. We have invited China and Brazil, and we are inviting all the countries. Even more, we have prepared not only our agenda. We have said that here are the first three crises. Let's discuss them, because they must be close to many countries in Asia, in Africa. That is food security, nuclear security. And it seems to me that it is extremely important to bring back Ukrainian children who were by force brought to the territory of Russian Federation. Everybody is interested in solving these issues, but I underscore it once again. We are ready to hear the opinion of any of the country, but within our platform that is organized by us together with the Swiss side.
The next question, Asahi Shimbun, if pardon me my pronunciation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for Mr. President. Just a follow-up question about China. And there's a many report in China is supporting the Russian industry, particularly the military industry. So in this sense, do you think it make it difficult to solve this conflict between Russia and Ukraine? And yeah, as we talked right now, China will not participate in this peace talk. But what and how would you expect after the conference, China play a role to mediate Russia and Ukraine to solve the peace resolve of this problem? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to tell you that with China's support to Russia, the war will last longer. And that is bad for the whole world. and for policy of China, who declares that it supports territorial integrity and sovereignty and declares it officially, for them, I think it is also not good. I believe that today there are strategic mistakes. Nobody, you can never support a country that is an aggressor. Somebody may not, unfortunately, somebody may not be against such policy, but the worst thing is when you support such policy, that means that you stick to the same rules in your life, and it says that the policy of your country is also the same in general, to support the aggressor. And then something does not correspond in this. You cannot say that we accept sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine and at the same time be on the side of the country that violates the principles of UN Charter and violates the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. That is in my opinion.
Я хотів би підкреслити.
And the third thing I would like to underscore is that one can not take part in the peace summit. Then this means that you do not see the peace in such format. You may not help Ukraine, the civilized world, or anybody else to end the war. But it seems to me that to disrupt the summit, to make steps to weaken the representation of leaders and countries, to do everything so that certain leaders do not arrive at peace summit, to push them, pressure them, that definitely does not bring peace closer. And that is not only support to Russia, that is basically support of war. Because if you do not support the peace summit, then what is happening is normal to you.
Thank you. Next question. Let's go for BBC. Yes.
President Zelenskyy, welcome back to Asia. You spoke to Lloyd Austin, the U.S. Defense Secretary, this morning about using American weapons in Russian territory. Can I know what are the limits for the use of those weapons, and have you asked to get more limitations removed?
Якось відповідав журналістам.
I was once replying to journalists that it is necessary to understand technically how the war is going on the border with Russian Federation, how it is happening. The equipment is standing on the border, on the territory of Russia. They have artillery there, long-range fires, S-300 systems. And by the way, Russia has 10,000 of missiles to these systems, that it is using to attack Kharkiv. And so they have these weapons there, and they do not remove them there because they know that Ukraine cannot target them with Western weaponry, even if they fire against us. So before replying and saying what we have discussed with Austin, I would like all of you to understand the stance of Ukraine on this point. Ukraine is at war, has been at war for many years, and it never targeted Russia's civilian population, because then you, journalists, would see thousands of examples of dead people on the territory of Russia. The fact that Russia targets us, everybody sees that, with thousands of examples of dead people, and it is important, very important, when we say to allow us to target the equipment, weaponry of Russian Federation that is at the border, to target certain military airfields from which on a daily basis take off the Russian military aircraft, who then fire at us the missiles of various types against civilian, purely civilian infrastructure, dams, energy grid, schools, universities, if we are talking about military targets. For them, just for you to know, military hospitals that are military, both civilian and military hospitals, they are military targets, and they hit them. And therefore we raised this issue, and there is public information, and we are grateful to President Biden that recently they have allowed to use HIMARS against Kharkiv region on the border areas. Is that sufficient? No. Why? Because I have given you the example of airfields from which Russia is permanently firing. Being calm, knowing that Ukraine will not fire back because it has no corresponding systems and no permissions.
Phoenix TV. Yes, please wait for your microphone.
Mr. President, I've made 2 trips into Ukraine since the war broke out, and it's quite a surprise to see you here back home in Singapore. So my question is, what brought you here all the way? Is there a certain objective that you came with, or are you trying to rally more on the Asian nations now?
Thank you for the question. We need the support of Asian countries. It is much needed. We respect each voice, each territory, each of the countries in your region. We want Asia to know what is going on in Ukraine. We want Asia to support the end of the war. We want Asian leaders to attend the peace summit. We know that many Asian countries do not support Ukraine with weaponry. We have never pressured them, never demanded it. We always ask for, first and foremost, political support, humanitarian support, support of our people, civilians, our children. Today, once again, Russia, unfortunately, I underscore it yet again, because for you to understand that for us it is very painful and a bit strange. Unfortunately, regrettably, Russia, using Chinese influence on the region, using Chinese diplomats also, does everything to disrupt peace summit. Regrettably, it is unfortunate that such big, independent, powerful country as China is an instrument in hands of Putin.
More from media of this region, if there are Malaysian, Indonesian media, please. Yes, please. Please tell where you're from so we understand the context more.
Hi, I'm Pei Ting from the Straits Times in Singapore. I would like to understand at this point what you expect of Asia's representation at the Peace Summit, including from Singapore, and did you achieve what you have come here to do so far?
First and foremost, all my trips abroad, all my meetings are aimed at the end of the war, and until we end the war, until peace comes to our state, nobody of us in Ukraine achieved the goal. But every day we need to make the end of the war closer, strengthening Ukraine with air defense systems, strengthening us economically, in defense, politically, also diplomatically, as the peace summit is an example of this. Therefore, we will see the results. We will see the presence of the representatives from Asia region on the peace summit, if they attend. I believe in it, and then we will know that my visit was productive. But all my energy All my time, everything I have is directed at this, to strengthen Ukraine in the direction of the end of the war. And I'm doing it. As regards Singapore and other Asian countries, for example, Indonesia, etc., we are speaking about the question of food security. It is of great importance. We have the exchange of goods. Ukraine is a guarantor of food security for many countries, despite the fact that Russia quit the grain initiative. Despite this fact, we have built our own corridor. Despite all this, even despite the fact that it is under shelling, I have met the representatives of business, and there are representatives of Singapore who have also suffered because of this, and there is a company that is doing agricultural business in Ukraine. The company is from Singapore, and the missiles were fired against them. And of course they were shocked because of this, because they are no military. They are businessmen from Singapore. But our task for today is to ensure that this corridor is working, to ensure that all losses that were suffered by this or that company are covered by using Russian assets, and we continue today to export millions of tons to Global South, to Africa, Asia, to Europe, and everywhere. And we have increased now, even without Russia, without anybody, we have increased this transit, and we will continue working in this direction.
He's first row.
President Zelenskyy, along with China, it doesn't sound like the US president will be attending the peace summit. With the heads of state of the two biggest powers in the world not in the room, how do you think it will hamper goals to achieve peace for Ukraine? Thank you.
Thank you. As of now, we have confirmation from 106 countries of the world that will attend Swiss summit. 106 countries as of today. On the level of leaders, we have now confirmation of 75 leaders, that is presidents, heads of states. The United States have confirmed their participation in the summit on the high level. For now, we do not have the approval of the president himself, but we expect the president to be. We hope for it, but it is important that the United States confirm their participation on the highest level. As regards China, they did not confirm their presence on any level. So these are two different positions, and the United States, to be honest, whatever happens, the United States of America, they have the contacts with certain states where they encourage them to take part in the peace summit. China, unfortunately, vice versa, is working for the countries not to come to the peace summit. So there is a great difference between these two positions.
Question, please. Yes. Fourth row.
Hi, President Zelenskyy. This is Zoe from Singapore Chinese Media, 联合早报. I have two questions. And the first one, if the peace summit does not forge a path towards ending the war, what are the alternatives for Ukraine? And the second one is, did you meet up with any officials from China, any Chinese officials during your stay in Singapore? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Undeniably, the peace summit is the path to the end of the war. There are 3 points there. That is not everything, but there are 3 points that definitely lead to the end of the war, and not to the start of yet another escalation on behalf of Russian Federation. apart from us expecting that we solve these three issues there and then on a technical level start to prepare how we implement them, these are countless meetings on the level how to do that. But except for that, if we are successfully on these 3 points, I'm sure that we will move on to further difficult questions. As regards China's representatives now in Singapore, I have not had any meetings with them. As regards our side, we have invited not only to summit, for many times we wanted to meet Chinese representatives of various levels. I wanted to meet with the leader. Approximately 1 year ago, I had a phone conversation with the leader of China. We have discussed the support of territorial integrity of Ukraine and our sovereignty. And our positions back then, they corresponded. Afterwards, I wanted to have a dialogue, to have a meeting, to invite to the Peace Summit to discuss our bilateral relations, because I believe that there is a lot for us to discuss. Why? Because the biggest goods exchange, in particular the metallurgy, the agricultural goods, so the biggest trade exchange Ukraine had with China before the war, before Russia blocked the Black Sea. So this is what it says about Ukrainian economy, Ukraine that had market economy. Unfortunately now, Ukraine has no powerful connections with China because Chinese side does not want it.
Question, ARD, please, in the middle, third row in the middle.
Mr. President, so which countries you were able to convince you to join the Peace Summit next to Timor-Leste? And Ukraine has too little military support to win this war. Do you believe in a diplomatic solution, and what would have to happen in concrete terms?
Thank you for the question. I have not met with all the countries. I will still meet with the leader of Singapore. I have met with Indonesia, with Timor-Leste. And I'm sure that these countries will be represented on the summit, but I cannot reply on behalf of these countries. That is my personal opinion. And then further, it is the choice of every country. And I'm always open with this. We respect every position, but this position has to be clear. There is no slavery. There is no force into anything. We are discussing the details. We are telling what we have, the losses we have, and the path to the end of the war. It is possible to end the war in diplomatic way if the world unites and isolates Russia. If after our peace summit, Russia makes some conference and there will be represented a lot of countries, then this would mean that the world is divided. And I think that this is a bad tendency. And that is why I said this way about Russia and about the representatives of some other countries, that they are working to disrupt the peace summit. They should not disrupt our peace summit. They should deal with their own country.
Now, the next question and one more question, and we'll have to finish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will Ukraine reconsider its support for the One China policy, given the parallels between Ukraine and Taiwan, particularly as have been emphasized recently by the United States, and given, as you noted, China's support for Russia in its war in Ukraine? And a second question, if I may. Do you see any role, has there been any role or impact in your outreach to the global South of the perceived double standard between the West's response to the war in Ukraine and the crisis in the Middle East? Thank you.
Я можу
I can not talk about the whole world. I can, and I do not want to talk about the whole world. I can talk about my own country and about its place in the world and about the threat that this war brings not only to Ukraine but to the whole world. We do not expect military support from China. We have never asked them. It does not make any sense to ask for military support from the country that will never give it to you. But we do not want to expect of the defensive support from China to Russia, and that is what we have discussed with Chinese leader by phone. He promised me that China will stand aside of this war and will not support with Russia with weapons. Today there are various signals from various intelligence services, including Ukrainian one, that somehow, some way, something comes to Russia's markets via China. I would be consistent in it. There are definitely certain elements that make part of Russia's weaponry, the elements that are part of weaponry that come from China. But I must mention that there are elements from other countries of the world. This does not mean that some countries by intention sell these elements to Russia so that their missiles take off and hit us. However, there is a solution to this situation. We pass to all the countries all the data that we have from our intelligence. If we see that this product belongs to this or that state from any continent, and if this product arrives to the market of Russian Federation circumventing sanctions, we pass this information to our partners so that they stop such transit. We are fighting for this, and we can talk about these questions. As regards the double standards, we do not have any double standards. That is why, despite somebody liking or not liking it, we have invited to the Peace Summit both Palestine and Israel. And all the countries whom I told you about, and the representatives of Global South. We have invited all the countries to our summit. We are ready to hear every opinion. We are ready to discuss with them everything. Only Russian representatives were not invited to this summit, not only because they are aggressors, but also the second point is because we have had with them many summits. There was Normandy format. We have concluded agreements with them, and then they did not stick to their words, and they continued to kill us, and they were blocking every processes, including ceasefire. Therefore, for them not to block, and I believe that we have a very, very right order of steps in the Peace Summit. We have invited all the countries that support us or even not support us, and I have said it to you just recently. We will not invite somebody who will. We did not invite somebody who would block everything. We will prepare on the technical level the plan on how to solve these three issues, and then, after the plan is ready, it will be passed to the representatives of Russian Federation, just as it was with the grain corridor. We have prepared the plan, then via Turkey and Secretary General of UN Guterres, we have passed this proposal to Russia, and then the corridor was working.
Yaroslav, wait for you.
Yes, Yaroslav Trofimov from the Wall Street Journal. You spoke about the disagreements you have with the People's Republic of China about the Peace Summit. Could you speak a little bit more about, beyond that, what positive role or what role would you like China to play going forward in trying to solve the crisis and trying to end the war? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nuclear safety and food security, at least these two elements out of three, undoubtedly, it would be of great benefit if China supported and helped to solve these two issues. Firstly, you remember that we had Budapest Memorandum, we had guarantors of security, those were powerful nuclear powers of the world, and we would want these countries to see the exit out of the situation that threatens the whole world, because now the biggest nuclear NPP in Zaporizhia, in Ukraine, it is occupied. There are 6 blocks that can they explode? Yes. Is this station mined? Yes. Is Rafael Grossi saying that there are certain threats? Yes, and this is a threat to the whole world, and we would want China to be present in this, and we know their position. At least previously, it did not differ. There should be nuclear safety, and there should be no usage of any nuclear power plant, and just as usage of any nuclear weapons. And these countries, they should be interested in this. And also, of course, agricultural sector, we had the greatest goods exchange between our countries, so they are all interested in this, and they also support territorial integrity. So there is a lot for them to do on this summit.
It's our press conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.